welcome to the show, Kristian. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
Samantha, thank you. So today we are having two guests, one from the Realtor side and one from the lender side, and we're going to be uncovering the stigmas and hard topics on real estate market. So I know it's been crazy in the last couple of weeks. It's just the federal rates drops and a lot of people is ready to start going crazy. You know, like 2020 frenzy, people went out and bought all the houses out there. There were like scarcity of houses. So we're gonna start with you, Kristian. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yes, so my name's Kristian Hurley, and I run a very small team called Hurley Homes Realty Group. We have been as a team since 2021. We have a buyer's agent, a content creator, virtual assistant, and we just hired a business administrator to help with all of my events and gifting, literally just like my right-hand woman with everything I do. When we were just hiring her, I was like telling her all the things that we were doing, and I was overwhelmed that I've been doing this so long by myself. So it's really nice to have her on. Just a little bit about personal. I have 3 kids, a 13-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old. They keep me pretty busy outside of real estate. Baseball, plays, all the things. We are situated in Tomball, ISD, and the school district is amazing over there. I've been in real estate for 11 years now. It's crazy to say, but at the end of October, it'll be my 11th year. When I first got into real estate, well, let's back up. How I started and the reason why I started into real estate was actually just had a friend tell me, you would be really good as a realtor. And I said, oh, really? And he's like, yeah. And so I got my real estate license, and that's how I started. I remember showing up to Ontario Real Estate Services. Samantha and I worked there together. And I thought I was going to walk in and they were going to tell me they're going to have a whole list of people to call to help them buy a home and sell a home. And I thought I was just going to be super rich immediately like that. And I just thought the real estate license was just kind of the stepping stone that I'm entering. I was like, why doesn't everybody else do this? Yeah. It's the easiest thing. And when I showed up, they did not give me a list of people to call. They actually told me to cold call and door knock, and I was super confused of what this meant, but it's literally hitting the phones and calling people that are not expecting your calls. And the first summer in real estate, I went on 10 listing appointments, maybe 15. I went a lot. I was cold calling like no other. I met with somebody. They taught me how to do it. I was calling for sell-by owners, which there's a lot of pushback with, their perspective of realtors are probably not the best. And that's the reason why they're not working with realtors. And so when I went on these listing appointments, I was super excited about getting the appointment. That's one of the hardest parts. But once you get your foot through the door, they also have to be confident in your abilities and trust you and have a proven track record. I was getting feedback that I was too young and I didn't have enough experience. So I kind of learned out of all those 10 listing appointments that I went on that summer, I didn't get one. So I realized that something has to change. I knew my presentation was pretty weak and I didn't really have any data to back me up. So I started on a team. And on that team, they taught me how to speak to others, how to refine my presentation. I just learned a lot of things that I would never learned had I not had the right mentorship. So as a realtor starting out, I would highly recommend getting on a team, finding somebody that's going to teach you the ways or mentor, just so that you can have some kind of leadership and some kind of path to go down. Because when I first started in real estate, I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't have the money to back me up either. I didn't have the tools at my fingertips outside of what the brokerage offered, which finding a brokerage that is able to teach you and have the classes, because in Ontario Real Estate Services, we had an amazing broker, Katie. She taught us so many things. She was really hands-on. So finding a brokerage and a mentor or starting it with a team is going to help you kind of that stepping stone into real estate. And they're going to help you, have the tools in purchasing like the signs and the photography, because that's what the teams should be doing for you.
That's pretty good. What about you, Samantha? How you start in the lender side game?
So I actually used to sell insurance. I had my first kid at 18 years old. And so after I had my baby, I was like, okay, I need to hit the real world. And so I sold insurance, and I was always having to call the mortgage companies and give them like the evidence of insurance. And I'd always have to get the mortgagee clause. And I was like, I wonder what it's like on the mortgage side. And so I started sending my resume. I got a call from a company called Zeus Mortgage. They're a smaller mom and pop shop here in Houston. And they hired me as a dialer, and I was just dialing for dollars. I would then, get this transaction and pass it to the loan officer. And so I was killing it. I was doing so good dialing for dollars. I was converting all these leads, and I was like, hold on, why don't I be the loan officer? And so that led me to find a position as a loan officer assistant. And I was a loan officer assistant for a high producing loan officer. And I think that was probably the best move for me, just because it helped me learn the ropes of how to become a successful loan officer. And so I was her loan officer assistant for about 2 years. And after that, I quickly was like, all right, now I'm getting my loan officer license. I got my loan officer license, and I just hit the ground running. And I remember my first month, I closed $1.2 million in loan transactions. And I remember getting that check, and I was just like, this is a dream. Like, I can't even believe that you can make this much money. And so from there, I was just always inspired to grow and always inspired to do more. I have that personality where nothing is ever good enough. Like, I always want more. And so from there, I've built a team, and now I have about probably almost 20 people under me. So I just, right now I'm in the transition of like, how can I really just take over Texas? And so that's how I got started. I got started by dialing for dollars. And from there, it just kind of opened up a whole side of me that I'm like, now I just want more. And so that's where I'm at.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So quick question for you, and then I jump for you, Kristian. How long it takes you from jumping from dial for dollar to becoming loan officer?
3 years.
3 years?
Yeah.
Okay. So explain a little bit what is dial for dollar.
So I was given a list. So it was pretty much prospects that were like in this system. And I mean, they had hundreds of prospects. And I remember at that time, it was kind of refinance season. I think I started like in 2000 and had to be like 12 or 13. And so refinance was, 2012 or 13. And refinance was common at that time. And so I was just calling and cold calling. And I was basically capturing these people by cold calling. And I realized these people were gravitated to my personality. I was like, oh, I'm really good at this. And so I would just all day long, I would cold call and I would dial for dollars.
How many cold calls do you do a day?
Today or back
like
then?
Back then, on those 3 years, like
I would
roughly
say probably 30 to 50
a day.
Wow. And I mean, it's a lot of hanging up. It's a lot of, failure. It doesn't come easy. But I would say on an average 30 to 50 people a day.
That's all.
Yeah.
That's a lot. So Kristian, on your side, it was a struggle at the beginning.
Yes.
It was a struggle. When do you had your first deal? Like when you had your signed contract and you like finally get a contract signed?
Yeah.
When that happened to you?
It was the third month in real estate.
Third month in real estate.
So after the second month, after that summer just going bad, I was just over it. I knew I needed to change something. So when I started on a team, I had a cold call that was in the neighborhood that I lived in, and I went on the listing appointment, and I was able to get it really quick. It wasn't like I really had to present at that. He just wanted to hire me because I was in the neighborhood. It just so happened I was on the team at the same time, but I remember that deal was horrendous. My gosh, it was an investor that bought the house. He flipped it. I don't think he's ever sold a home before. It was him and his partner, and they purchased it cash. They didn't know it was in a flood zone because when you purchase with cash, you don't have to have flood insurance because there's no loan. So they didn't know. So whenever we did the seller's disclosure, they didn't mark that which they didn't even have to do the seller's disclosure at that point. So that's how bad it was because they never occupied the home. We didn't have to have a seller's disclosure. But on there, he said that it wasn't in a flood zone, but it was. So it was a I mean, the people still ended up purchasing it. So it worked out, but they ended up not making money on it at all. They actually had to bring money to the closing table. So
you never forget your first deal.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
you never
It was
do.
really bad. But yeah.
That's crazy.
But for after that deal, it took probably about to start getting like referrals, because I feel when I started the team, they were like, oh, it's a referral. I'm like, where are you getting these referrals from? And they're like, it just takes time. And they say usually after the 5th year is when it starts to hit really good. It was about 4 years when I started to get referrals in. But it's like the nurturing and the of the long-term relationships that you build with these clients. You have to have systems in place. You have to be consistent. I mean, there's a lot of ups and downs in this industry.
It is. It is. You were doing cold calls basically after the recession. So you were catching a lot of people that bought, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but bought arms, financing, and you were like trying to transfer.
I think that's why for me it was easier to
conventional.
convert, because they were in arms.
They were in arms, yeah. I figured that one.
And I didn't know really what I was talking about. I was just, it was crazy because, I mean, you know, naturally when you first start a career, you don't know the terminology or the lingo. I think honestly, it was just connecting with these clients over the phone and just being like, you know, let me put you in contact with a loan officer, and then they can help you gauge whether or not this makes sense. And that's kind of what opened the door to me. I'm like, I'm too good at this. Like, what's next for me?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I did. I mean, I was converting a bunch of refinances, a bunch of investors that were trying to do hard money loans, because at that time I was selling hard money loans. And so, yeah.
It's good. It's good. I like both of your attitudes. It's like not quitting.
Yeah.
Even though it was a rough start and, you know, kind of like
I feel like we have a lot of similarities too, as far as wanting more, because that's completely me, that defines me. I'm always trying to grow and trying to go to the next step. I'm never complacent. I can't just I have to always be looking forward. And then the cold calls, like the calling and having to do something like that's hard. A lot of people will not do it. But those cold calls too, it's not like we just call and they're like, yes, we would love to work with you. Thanks for calling. It's in the follow-up, for me at least. I had to follow up like 7-10 times before I was able to even meet with that person. So it was being consistent on every Monday. I knew who I was calling. I was calling the same people that I called on the Monday before. Same thing for Tuesday. I had this little Rolodex with like cards in it because I didn't want to put in my database yet, because I didn't really know them, and I didn't know if they wanted to work with me. So I had this little index. It was like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then on the back, I had like what we spoke about. And so the second call was a lot easier than the first, because I'm like, last week, I remember you said you were going to hold an open house this weekend. How did it go? What was the feedback? How are you feeling about the market? Are you getting any showings now? The first call is always the hardest. Yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah.
That's how have your own separate database.
Yeah.
That's smart, because you put it out there, it's a free game.
Yeah.
That's what I see when they talking about teams, and they like, we put in the database, everybody sees it.
Yeah.
It's a free for all kind of type of deal. So let's talk about the marketplace right now.
Okay.
So you're specialized in inner loop. You told me it's like Tomball,
Yes.
Spring, Houston area. How is the market right now as far as for, let's say, for the buyer's side, and then we go to the seller side?
Okay.
Let's go for the buyer's side. How is the market right now?
Okay, so for buyers, because rates have dropped, they can afford a little bit more home than they were, 2 months ago. And they anticipate more rate drops. I'm sure you'll get into that as well.
Yes.
But buyers right now, they can get a home. If they want the home, most of the time, they're going to be able to get it. It's not like it was in 2020, 2021, where it was multiple offer situations and they were having to offer $40,000, $100,000 over list price because that was a thing. Sometimes even then you weren't even able to get the home. There was somebody that came in and outbid you over $100,000. It's crazy. But right now, if you want the home, they can find it. And they have more leverage to negotiate down too on price. As a seller's perspective, I tell them if you get an offer in, it's best to work with them unless they're being unrealistic. It also depends on what market you're in. So if you're in the Woodlands right now, it's still really, really hot. You have a home that's priced well and it's beautiful and it shows well, it's going to move pretty quickly. But if you're, inner loop, there's a lot of inventory right now. I know they say that right now it's still a seller's market, but it feels more of a buyer's market. It's not completely balanced yet, but I think last time I checked, it was like 4.5 months of inventory, if I'm not mistaken. So we're entering into a balanced market, but it definitely feels like the buyers have the upper hand in negotiations.
What is the nice balance on the market? Well, how many months in inventory do you think is a balanced market?
Well, they say 6 months.
6 months. So we close there. We get
Yeah, it's still, I don't agree that 6 months is a balanced market. It just, when you have so much inventory and not enough buyers, like it just feels like a buyer's market.
What about for the sellers?
For the sellers, so I think it's highly important to hire somebody that knows the market really well right now. Somebody that can invest into the homes that they list. Because putting a sign in the yard and taking photos and listing it is not enough right now. I think that because there isn't enough buyers right now looking at homes, homes are sitting. 90, 60 days, easy, sometimes even longer. Pricing your home appropriately the first time rather than making all those price reductions to get to where you should have started at is you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. You're not going to make as much money. You're actually probably going to make less now because you should have priced it well. Listening to your realtor with their advice that they have to give you because they have been selling, 10, 20 homes a month. They know what's happening right now. I do find that the first week is very crucial with doing as much as you can before that home even hits the market. So, for instance, we have like a 100-step listing launch program that we take the photos, we are doing the videos, we're doing the brochures, we're running the ads, we're sending the mailers, we're doing mega open houses. The last open house that we held, we had about 150 people come through. We had a margarita machine, we had free snow cones, we had raffles, and within that 7 days, we did have an offer that came through.
Nice.
Had that person not come to the open house, I had spoken to her on the phone, but it wasn't a public open house. It was just to the neighbors. Because the people that live closer to the home, they're gonna know the people that want to move to the neighborhood. They have friends and family. I'm constantly speaking to everybody in our neighborhood, and that's what they say. I have 3 people over here that want to move into our neighborhood because it's a beautiful community. So if I had advice to sellers or advice on what the seller's market is make sure that you're listing your home and it's pretty perfect right now. Like people are looking for turnkey. So if you need to replace that carpet, replace that carpet. If you need to paint the house, paint the house. If you need to replace that fence, do it. The landscaping, everything that you think that you would want in a home, it's most likely what the buyer's gonna want. And if you don't see it in your home, they're gonna go to the house 3 doors down that did those things and they're gonna purchase that house.
Absolutely, yeah. It's in my wheelhouse. I told my wife, I buy a house, it's a turnkey. I don't want to invest more money that's already invested into the property.
Right now, everything's so expensive. It's hard to have people have, if they have $10,000 to invest into a remodel or replacing flooring, everything is just so expensive right now.
It is right now. So now for the lender side, tell me about how is the market on the buyer side and the seller side?
So I would say exactly what she said, because I help buyers. I am seeing many, if not most of my contracts have seller credits, which during the COVID, time, seller credits wasn't necessarily even a thing. It was like these buyers were having to overbid just to even get that property. On these contracts that I have right now, most of them have seller credits, which is beneficial to the buyer because it allows for them to come to the table with less cash to close, little cash to close. They have a lot more negotiating than, the COVID era. As far as sellers go, I still do believe that it's a great market. You can still, net what you need to net if you have a good realtor. There's always the net sheet that the listing agent can provide, and maybe you can even cushion the sales price knowing that this buyer is going to ask for seller credits if your realtor runs comparables and they believe that house will sell for what it's, what he or she is listing it for. So if you're going to potentially offer about $10,000 in seller credits, then build it into the sales price if you can. And at that time, I mean, at the end of the day, when you get that appraisal from the lender, I mean, your seller needs to know that if it does come in low, that, you know, hey, we tried and we're going to have to lower the sales price. But I think it's just like you said, just like she said, don't shoot yourself in the foot. There's so many creative ways to still list your house and still net what you want to net in this market.
Yeah, this market is pretty good, especially in Houston. It seems like it never slowed down. It's just like a lot of people moving in.
We still have a very strong market.
We have a great real estate market here in Houston.
Yeah, because when we purchased this house about a year ago. It's in the next 2 days will be a year exactly when we close on this house. And we went around all over the place. We went to the Highlands. We went to what was the other one? The Woodland Hills. We went everywhere. And we settled here because, you know, they gave us more credit. We were negotiating price and the lower HOA, stuff like that. You know, that kind of plays into into my financing because everybody finances is different.
Yeah.
So for us, it was like, we got the square footage, we got the price that we wanted. We don't have to pay a lot of maintenance and stuff like that. Even though it comes to like the pros and cons of like location, stuff like that. But we're like, we're close to the highway.
Yeah.
We're not too far away from the highway. We're not far away from Autobahn. So we just like, it priced well for us. You know what I mean? It works out. So now we're going to talk about, as a buyer, what a buyer have to do pre-house hunting. Because that's what I want to touch on. I want to put myself in the market again.
Yeah.
What I can do, for example, to prepare myself to, when I reach out to you, I'd be well positioned to purchase a house. What is the step that I have to take?
Yeah. So the first step I would say is get in touch with a realtor. Because they're going to have all the rest of the steps that you need to know. But meeting with them, we always, whenever we have somebody that inquires about purchasing a home, whether it's 6, 12 months, 18 months out, we always set up a buyer consultation. During that consultation, we go through the guide, what to expect, like the fees, the closing costs, different loan programs. We also, at that time, we refer lenders over to them, and trying to like get them in contact with the lender. During the consultation, we'll touch on the different loan programs, but the lender's really going to be able to tell you what's going to be the better fit based on, you know, if you're a teacher, if you're a vet, or if you qualify for a down payment assistance. Conventional, depending on, you know, if you're trying to do an investment property, they're going to be able to fit you with the best program. So having those conversations early on, that way, whenever you're ready to start house hunting, you have a plan in place. Because the last thing that I would want my client to do is, hey, I'm ready to buy a home, and we're about 60 days out, and they're like, oh, my credit score's too low. I just called the lender. Well, that could have been prevented had you spoken to the lender early on, and you started doing the things that you needed to do in order to build the credit. Whether it's paying down a credit card, or even being added as an authorized user from a friend or somebody in the family that you trust and have a proven track record, and you know that they're making their payments on time. You kind of piggyback off of their payment history. So that's actually what I did when I purchased a house. Is I was added to a family member's credit card, didn't have authorization to take their credit card and go buy stuff, but because my name was on it, it looked like as if I was making these payments. And so my credit score shot up like 40 points in 1 month, and it was quick. So that's like, there's like a couple of tricks that you can do in order to build that credit real quick. But as a buyer, before you even step foot in a home, you need to meet with a realtor. You need to have a plan in place. You need to have those hard conversations about, you know, what is your real estate goals? What do you think you need to do now in order to pay down the credit cards? How much you need to save? We talked about option period, inspections, appraisals, all those terms that a lot of people don't know about, or, you know, it may be foreign because it's real estate terms.
Okay. What about in your side? Once you get her client, what do you do? What do you kind of help guide that client through the process?
Absolutely. So The first step is always just to apply. I know when buyers call me, they have a ton of questions, and I always tell them just apply, because without really being able to navigate through your finances, it's very difficult because each scenario and each story is completely different than the other. So I always recommend, if you know you have credit issues, apply a year in advance, because sometimes that might mean we need to refer you to a credit repair specialist, or maybe we don't, and it's something that I can help you navigate on my side. We have what's called rapid rescore, where if you apply on my website link, when I pull your credit, it'll show me the potential score increase that you can obtain. And basically with that, I can tell you exactly which credit cards to focus on. There's a lot of people that before applying for the mortgage will like blindly just start paying off debt. And sometimes this debt that they're focusing on really doesn't have an impact to their credit score. And so it's, I don't like telling people like, okay, well, you've been paying down your car installment, and installment loan doesn't necessarily have a huge impact. A lot of people think that paying off their car is going to have a huge impact to their score, but it actually doesn't, because it's an installment loan. And the way the credit bureaus view an installment loan is not as many points to your credit as a revolving debt. And that's because a revolving debt is continuous. You can constantly use it, whereas an installment, once you pay it off, it's closed. And so I always recommend them just do the application. By doing so, I can see which credit cards you can focus on, and I'll tell you, you need to go pay your Wells Fargo credit card down to $50, leave that balance, and then in 3 to 5 business days, if they can do it quickly, I can actually contact the credit bureaus, do what's called a rapid rescore, and help them with their credit. If they can't, if maybe they don't need a credit, any sort of credit recommendations, that's fine. Whether you believe you're in a good position or not, you still need to know how much you need to have saved up. If you need a game plan on how much is it going to cost to buy a $300,000 property, well, I need to help you achieve a monthly savings so that in 12 months we can get you into your property. So always apply, whether you're ready now or not. It's still good to apply in advance, so that way you're not scrambling, rushing at the end. Your lease is getting ready to end, and now you have, less time to prepare for this process.
Yeah, it happens. It happens that, gladly we have saved, but now you're talking about savings. Like, say we buying, let's say I'm buying a house, $400,000, $300,000. How much in savings do you recommend people to have set aside besides, the down payment and all that stuff?
So it just really depends. I mean, you'd be surprised. I help buyers come to the table with no cash to close. If you do a down payment assistance and your realtor is successfully able to negotiate for the sellers to pay for your closing costs, some of these people come to the table with nothing. And that's why I say it's important to start this process, because I might have a buyer, like for instance, I have a client right now that's under contract, and I remember when I pre-approved them, they were crying on the phone because they were so excited. They've been renting their entire life because they're like, we don't make but $50,000, $60,000 annually. We don't have, the means to save up thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And these people are coming to the table with no cash to close. And so it's stories like that where people are waiting to, there's still people that think that it's 20% down to even buy a house. And that's so not true. And that's far from the truth. So I would say every scenario is different. Now, if you're doing a down payment assistance, it's probably best to have at least $5,000 saved up. But, if you're in a position where you do have a savings, or your parents are able to gift you funds, I mean, $10,000, $20,000 is good, but I don't even want to say that, because like I said, this family that I'm helping right now, they don't have but $3,000 saved to their name, and they're under contract for like a $285,000 house.
Nice.
So
that's good.
There's just so many programs out there that help first-time home buyers and even buyers in general to help achieve home ownership without breaking the bank.
That's awesome. It's a lot of programs out there. You got the FHA, conventional, USDA,
VA.
You got VA. I use VA twice already.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
amazing loan.
Yeah, I'm getting money back.
Oh yeah.
Every time I buy, you just like cash money.
Yeah.
But now you post something very interesting a couple of days ago. 16 to you should not do before purchase.
Yes.
In the process of buying a house. Can you mention one of the stuff? I know you mentioned Do not.
Don't go buy a boat.
Or jet ski, or motorcycle, whatever.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Don't open up another loan to go buy your furniture for the house that you're purchasing that you're really excited about. And then, just don't open up another credit card. Don't go buy a boat. Don't go buy a car. What are the other don'ts?
Oh.
Don't, change jobs.
Oh, yes.
That's a good one.
You technically can it makes it easier if it's in the same line of work, and it makes it easier if you're getting a pay increase.
Oh, yeah, you're getting a raise or something.
But
okay.
If you're switching jobs and there's a gap of employment, I mean, it definitely makes things slightly more difficult. It's not impossible, but if you're resigning or you're quitting or anything like that and you don't have another job lined up, don't do that. Don't co-sign for anyone. Don't make large deposits in your bank account.
Yeah.
If it's cash sitting in your house, and especially in the Hispanic community, we have a lot of cash in the house. Don't put that cash in the bank. It all needs to be paper trailed, and if it can't, it's actually considered dead money, and the mortgage company will not allow for you to use it. There's tricks to that, though.
now that you're talking about the don'ts, to buy a car, how that can affect your ability to purchase a house, how impactful that is.
Well, your debt to income ratio will change. It could. I don't know how many points it could change.
Well, it
to.
could
It just
change
depends.
it could change it significantly. So obviously a car note isn't, $40, $50 monthly. I mean, it's a couple $100. So it could impact your purchasing power. So if you qualified for $250,000 and your debt to income ratio was already borderline, well, now that vehicle is going to change your purchasing power, and instead of purchasing a $250,000 house, now you only qualify for $200,000. So it's always best to purchase your house and then get the vehicle or the boat or whatever you need to get for the house furniture after you close on the house.
Yeah, you want to freak out your realtor on the day of walkthrough. If you show up with a new car, you'll freak her out.
Yeah.
I freaked my realtor. Had a truck and I bought a new one, but he didn't know. And he's like, "Is that a new truck?" It's like, yeah.
It's like second nature for us
Yeah.
to look
he's
at
like,
what you're driving.
I said, like, "Don't worry about it. I got the title."
Like starts sweating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he starts sweating. He's like, "Julio, I got the title." Oh, okay, thank you.
You'd be surprised. We see some crazy things in our industry.
Really?
Yes.
I got one friend that did it a long time ago.
All the time.
He bought a car and the realtor went crazy. He told me about it. I was like,
And you have your clients that follow the do's and the don'ts, right? But then you have yours that no matter how many times you tell them, they still don't follow. Like I'll tell my clients no cash deposits, and then I'll get their updated bank statements, and I'm like,
where's the $5,000?
why do you have cash deposits?
Right.
So
Yeah.
it does make the process very challenging. And as long as you're listening to your realtor and your lender and you're following everything that they tell you to do, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talking about that, when I purchased this house, they asked me for a letter validating my deposits because it didn't match my income, and they were like, where this extra cash money came from? And I told them, like, I have a prior business before moving to the States, but gladly I had all my receipt from my vendors
It's perfect.
when I sell them my product back in Puerto Rico, and I was like, hey, I got all these receipts right here, and they're like, oh, that's when the money came from. Like, yeah. And then they were like, oh, okay, they signed off on it, and everything was fine.
As long as there's a valid explanation and you can prove it, you're fine.
Yeah,
so if you
happens.
have a side business and there's receipts and things of that nature, they just want to make sure that there's no money laundering.
Right.
That's the whole purpose. I mean, mortgage is backed by the FBI. So they're just doing their due diligence to make sure that you're paper trailing the funds that are, going into your bank account.
Yep. So one more question. Now we're talking on programs, the FBA, all this stuff. How do you when people know they come to you, they had probably purchased their first home. They probably first time home buyers, and they have like little or no knowledge on the programs out there. How can you steer them to like find out what are their needs, whether for FHA or conventional?
Yeah.
How you determine that?
It's a great lender question, but I will touch on it. FHA offers one of the lower credits, lower interest rates, so that might be something that's going to be more attractive to them, with 3.5% down. So, and then conventional is like if they're doing an investment or that's probably the loan program that they'll want to move forward with. But it really just depends on what they qualify for. So VA, I mean, they could do 0 down if they are past that. But Samantha probably will know more details on all the loan programs.
So what is the loan programs out there that, the FHA change, every rule change every year, Did they came out already for the FHA for the next year? Did they came out with any new rules that you know of?
I think recently the loan limit has increased. I know for sure for conventional. I'm not 100% sure for FHA because it's always changing. But last time I checked, it was about $472,000 for FHA.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's helping. It's just allowing buyers to be able to buy larger size homes and not get into jumbo, or I feel like the cost of living is now just increasing. And so obviously the mortgage has to keep up with that.
Right. So what about USDA? Have you done a lot of USDA?
No, not really. But there are stricter guidelines on USDA. Yeah. The debt to income ratio is a lot more strict than a regular FHA and VA or even conventional. So a lot of people, it's not that they don't qualify. It's just, I feel like it's a harder program to qualify for, but it's not impossible. Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit of guidelines on the FHA? What is the minimum requirements?
So 3.5% down on the FHA, but you can also do a down payment assistance that will cover your whole down payment. Debt to income ratio is a lot higher on the FHA versus conventional. So it goes up to 57%, whereas conventional, you're capped out at 49.9. FHA does allow for you to have a weaker credit score. So if you have, a 620 or even a 630, FHA will allow for that. Whereas conventional, it's not that they don't necessarily allow for it. It's just the interest rate's going to be insane with a lower credit score. So it will make more sense to go FHA. FHA does have very good interest rates. So sometimes even my conventional buyers that qualify both conventional and FHA actually end up going the FHA route because they're like, well, I'll just refinance later. But I would say the debt to income ratio, the credit score, and it just being kind of a little bit of an easier program to qualify for. I feel like it's a more common program for first-time home buyers.
So one question for you. For the FHA and conventional, let's say I would go FHA route. Can I pay the PMI on front instead of?
No.
They have to be attached to the loan?
Yes. So FHA, if you put 10% down, the mortgage insurance will fall off at the 11th year, right? If you put a minimum of 3.5% down, you have it for the life of the loan. Whereas conventional, there are programs out there that do have no private mortgage insurance, and there are programs out there that you can buy it out up front. It is very expensive. But let's just say you took a regular conventional and you have the mortgage insurance, it will fall off at 20% equity.
Okay. It will fall.
Whereas FHA, the only way to get rid of that mortgage insurance is by refinancing out of it.
Okay.
And VA has no mortgage insurance.
Okay. So yeah. So yeah, because they offered me the FHA, but I went to the VA.
Oh yeah. So, VA makes way more sense.
Yeah, I didn't want to pay the PM.
Yeah.
I was like, no, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to move on to that. Like, no. So now we're talking getting ready for signing the contract. You sign the contract with the client, and you're about a week out. That's when you start asking for a bunch of paperwork to the client. Be like, hey, send me this, send me that, send me statements. What is it saying? Tax transcripts, all this stuff. For a buyer, what they need to do a week prior?
A week prior to closing?
To closing, because that's when they ask you the most paperwork.
Well, I know that the lender is going to verify employment. Usually, sometimes 24 hours or the day of closing. Most of the time, y'all should have all the paperwork in by that time.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. We
hopefully you're not waiting on anything. Otherwise,
unless
it's
the client's taking a little bit longer than typical.
Unless you buy a boat or something.
Yes.
Yes, that would be a mess. But fortunately, that has not happened to me where someone has bought a boat.
Knock on wood.
Maybe because they have the paper in my buyer consultation of the guide do's and don'ts. So, but yeah, the week before, hopefully appraisals already came in. Hopefully that's been everything's gone through
final
underwriting.
Walkthrough.
Yeah, final walkthrough. But outside of that, it's just at that time, they should have everything completed.
Yeah, preparing to get your funds ready for the cash to close. Make sure that you have all of that situated, and just make sure that you have fulfilled all of the required documents from the lender, and then get with your agent to do that final walkthrough, just to make sure that all the things that you want to make sure that the house is ready to go, ready for you to purchase, the AC still working, all of that.
Yeah. During the final
House
walkthrough,
inspection,
during the final walkthrough, we check toilets, turn on all the water to make sure all the plumbing, that there's no leaks, make sure that the home is still standing. Then we have a repair amendment that we usually go through if there was any repairs, and we'll cross-reference the invoices and the receipts that were provided over to us to make sure that everything has been completed on the amendment. And then we physically go and look to make sure that it looks like they did complete those. You'll be surprised of how many times we show up the day of walkthrough, and even though we've asked for receipts and invoices probably about 5 times leading up to that, we still haven't received anything. Or they won't respond. Sometimes the realtors on the other end, they just don't respond. There's no communication. It's crazy to me, but I don't know. It's just a normal thing. And it's hard. It makes our job a lot more difficult when the other realtor on the other end is just, there's no communication.
And that's
why
I'm sure
you've been in that situation before.
all the time. And that's
crazy.
why, when you're a seller, you really want to make sure that you're doing your due diligence when hiring an agent, because anyone can stick their sign in the front of the yard. That's not hard.
Yeah.
But you want to make sure, if your realtor is missing an action in the middle of a transaction, I mean, that's super concerning. That realtor is representing you, and that realtor needs to be available and make sure that they can help the buyer's side get to the finish line so that you can get your money.
Yeah.
Especially when the sales is time sensitive.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is a huge transaction that they are entrusting in us to handle. And if you can't even just pick up the phone and answer it, I don't understand why these realtors are even in the industry if they can't communicate. This is the number one thing that we have to do is communicate.
It's
Should
the
be
biggest
the easiest
purchase
thing
of most people's lives.
So we're here to protect that. We're not just going to sign here, walk away, and never hear from us again. I mean,
it's a lot more to it.
Yeah, why would I even ask for you to pay me if that's all I was going to do?
Right. Yeah. So now you mentioned something in very important communications. That's I would say it's a 3-way communications. You got your clients, between you, between the lender, and how important it is the 24/7 communications, because stuff happen in the middle of the day and it need to be time sensitive. You need a paperwork, hey, I have my underwriter requiring that paperwork to be here at 2:00 in the afternoon, and it's 1:50.
Yeah.
And you're trying to get that paperwork. What if you cannot contact the other seller's realtor? What do you do? What is a common practice?
Yes.
Show
so
me.
It happens.
Give me the secret sauce. What do you do?
I've become a little stalkerish, where I am literally calling, texting, emailing over and over again. I'm calling the lender, I'm calling the title company, I'm calling everybody else to get on board, because it's happening to them as well. They're not able to communicate with this agent. I recently just did a transaction where he would only respond to me. I would try to get in touch with him Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The lender, even the seller, had spoken to me directly. I was representing the buyer.
So sad.
And the seller is the one who called me the day of closing. And she was like, what is this document that I need to sign? I was like, oh my goodness. I sent this 2 weeks ago. I've asked y'all so many times. I wasn't mad at her. She wasn't mad at me. She was upset with her realtor. But whenever it comes to something like this, it's just, you have to be pushy. This one agent wouldn't respond to me until Friday at 8:00 at night. I'm in the middle of putting my kids down to bed. I can't answer a call at 8:00. I will call him back when I put the kids down, and I called him back at 9, and then 9:30, and I texted him. I was like, hey, I missed your call. Give me a call back. Didn't hear from him until the next Thursday. It was crazy. I don't know if he had a job, a full-time job, but I came to find out, I spoke to the seller, and she was like, I just don't think he cares. That's what she said. And I was like, that's really sad, and I'm sorry that you had to go through that. Yeah.
That's bad.
Yeah, it's really bad. That's why it's really important that anybody who is a buyer or a seller and they're looking to list their home or purchase a home, that you are interviewing agents to find out. And honestly, looking online. Because if
Looking
you can't
at their social media.
Yeah, it's big right now. If you don't have, like, it's the easiest way to find out if your realtor is actually out there and working. Is looking at their transactions, seeing if they have a track record, Googling them, looking at the reviews. It's a big
reviews
thing.
Are a big thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, you Google my name, you're going to find a million things about me. It's just, I'm just there. You'll see me. You pretty much already know me before I walk through the door. I have people calling me and asking me, can you list my home? Like, yes, I can come list your home. What time?
Yeah.
I'll be there in 2 minutes. Like,
of course. Yeah, it's true. I've seen you all over the place.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, she's all over.
Yeah, you watch one of my videos, I will start following you around. It happens. Like, you see me everywhere. So,
question that I have for you: interest rate. Now they dropped 50 points last week. How they can the buyers or sellers or buyers can lock their rates? They can lock it the first week when they meet with you, or you lock it after a few days before close?
That's a really good question. It just depends. Right now, I'm actually advising that my clients are floating, because a lot of people had the misconception, because there was that 50 basis point cut through the Fed, that rates were going to drop. And they actually didn't. They actually worsened for the last couple of days. And the reason why is because mortgage rates are not backed up by the Fed. They do go hand in hand with one another. But the mortgage rates had already baked in with the Fed. They already knew that the Fed was going to drop rates. So they had already had it baked into their rate sheet. So right now, I mean, they're trying to catch up with one another, right? And so if it's a good day to lock, like, 2 weeks ago when rates continue to improve every single day, I was locking the day they went under contract. Right now, I'm floating, and I'm telling my clients why. I said, because the Fed did just, reduce rates by 50 basis points. Let's wait for the market to catch up with itself. And I usually will play with the market for about a week. And I always tell my buyers, I say, look, I don't have a crystal ball. I wish I did. I'd be a millionaire. But, if I say, this is what today's market is, okay? And if it worsens from what I'm selling you today, I will do you the favor, because I'm very big on integrity. I will take a pay cut to match what today's market is. If you just trust my intuition, let's float. This is what the rate is today. If it worsens, I will take a pay cut to honor what I said today. And they're like, okay. And so I feel like with my buyers, they trust my knowledge in this industry. And so most of my buyers are floating right now. So it just depends on the market. Sometimes I'll lock right away if the market looks really good. And sometimes right now I'll float. I usually float for about a week. And then after that, I'm like, okay, there hasn't been much movement. Let's just go ahead and lock.
What is the actual rate today? Do you know?
Yeah. So, last week, you can, to be honest with you, the high fours was not even pricing out at one point in time. Now, when you price out a loan, it's basically a rate stack. So it'll start, in the high fours, and it'll be all the way to the sevens. And so obviously the low fours are going to have crazy buy downs, and you're going to have to pay a lot to get into that rate. But sometimes the lender can actually help the buyer's agent and say, like, hey, if your buyer wants to, accomplish a certain monthly payment, like, go ask the sellers for $10,000 in seller credits, and we can help them achieve that desired monthly payment. But today's market rate is probably in the high fives, low sixes.
High 5, 6. That's pretty good.
It's
compared
not
to
in the
few
nines
months
anymore.
ago.
Not anymore.
No, yeah, I seen when we were looking for a house, it's about a year, because we started house hunting year prior. So we started 2022, 2021, we were looking for houses, and they were like pretty hot market. Everybody, like you were saying, everybody would put in 40, 60 over the price, and we wait. So my wife like, let's wait it out a little bit till the market kind of cool down, and it did. Now it's kind of like, my wife told me, like, are we gonna buy a house? I was like, yes, we can't wait no longer. I mean, it's like I'm like you. I don't have a crystal ball to see if now I was a millionaire too. But we wait, and she told me, like, let's do it now. And I think we locked low 6 when we bought it, and I was happy. It's like, well, it's better than 7.
Right.
It used to be like a 7.3, 7.4, and they gave us like low 6, better than I expected. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, and I think too, like, just for buyers, that brings up a good point, is like the people that are like, well, let's continue to wait. Let's wait. It's like, well, you're missing out on that equity that you could start building now by waiting. And so there's always the opportunity to refinance. And so I have a lot of buyers just like that. They're like, well, I'm going to wait till next year when the rates drop. And I'm like, well, how do you know the rates are going to drop? I mean, we don't even know. And I do this for a living. And so I'm like, well, if you're paying rent, you're missing out on all of that money that could be given towards being a homeowner.
Yeah. You're missing that money of
the equity,
and the inflation. I mean,
exactly.
3% they go over.
Exactly.
And plus you throwing money away because you're not putting money to yourself.
Exactly.
You just putting money away. So you're losing money on both sides. You know,
100%.
The appreciation and the money away for the
exactly.
And it's crazy. This nowadays you cannot even believe. Like, I'm afraid that people believe that they wait for the rates to drop. They're gonna fall into the 2020
exactly
fever. You know,
the
rates went down to 3%, but the house went up $150.
And now you're in a bidding war, and now you do need a huge savings to even accomplish homeownership, because in order for you to even win that house, you got to overbid. And if it appraises lower than what you're wanting to buy, they'll find another buyer that has the savings.
Yep, it happens, and it happened once, and I'm afraid it probably will happen again if they drop the price, drop the points 50 more, and then the next quarter 50 more.
Yeah.
See us in 2025. The rates are like 3.7, 4.2. People are gonna be buying houses like crazy.
It's gonna be crazy again.
And that 5%, in that 5 months, inventory will go down to like 2-day inventory.
That's how it was.
And if you're waiting for that, people are gonna be like pissed. It's gonna be like, well, I gotta pay now $150,000 more for the house that I wanted.
Yeah, and it's not going to appraise, so it's going to be out of pocket.
Yeah, it's going to be out of pocket. That's a big thing. So moving on to the next subject, it would be let's talk about economics in the municipal, like tax brackets. That's like tax bracket in a city, property tax.
Oh, property tax.
Property tax. Let's do that. Property tax. I don't know. I think here it's like 2 point something.
Yeah.
2 point something. How much is in Tomball that you are?
Mine currently, so it varies from community to community.
Right.
That's
varies.
just how it is here in the Houston area. It's not one that fits all. Like if you go into Bridgeland, their tax rates are like 3.8, 3.7, very high.
Yeah, very high.
In my community, it's more established. My home was built in 92. Some of the homes were built in 2002. The infrastructure isn't as new as Bridgeland is. So the taxes are about 2.16, which is great. I always sell that for the Tomball area because the taxes are lower. After the feds met, the 8% increase in property taxes this year, I don't know if you heard, but Harris County just declared this. Yes. Yeah. And so everybody was excited about the feds and the meeting and the 0.5% decrease. But right after that, like literally 2 days after that, they announced an 8% increase in property taxes in Harris County. So I was really excited about that. So I've gotten a lot of feedback. A lot of people are pretty upset.
I bet.
So if you have like a $400,000 home, your property tax increase, I think, would be around like $168 or $200 for 2024, which it does help. It does hurt people. It does make a huge difference, but with some people that are living on a set income, and they are it definitely puts them in a scarcity level.
Right, it does.
Yeah,
it does. It is impacting people left and right. I mean, they're dropping 50 points and they're raising the 8%. Is like
of course
it always happens. It's
always happening. I don't know why they do that. It is.
Well, they're probably making up the difference in some way, I guess. But just because Harris County was declared disaster, they usually have to vote on this. So I'm sure if they voted on it, it wouldn't have passed. But they announced that they didn't have to vote on it because it was declared disaster, and they passed it. And it was real quick. I didn't even know this was happening, honestly.
I haven't even heard about it. I'm like,
there you go.
Gosh.
Here's your news tip for the day.
Thank you.
I found out about
here to keep you informed.
I found out about the property taxes by you. You posted. I'm telling you,
I try to
everywhere.
keep up with everything. It's impossible.
I keep it up because of her. I'm up to date because of her.
Yeah.
Instagram, I want to know something in the market.
Yeah. I'm looking at the news every day.
You do?
Well, because I'm also trying to figure out, we're huge in our content. So I'm always trying to figure out what's what's current, what is going to be the most spoke about. We're always looking at local news. And if I'm doing all this content, then I'm also learning at the same time. So it's a win-win.
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, you have to, like in your space, you have to do, because people can ask you a bunch of questions.
You have to keep up.
Yeah, you have to keep up, and people can be like, hey, what about this and what about that? But if you already read through that, you're like, let me explain you about that.
Yeah, you feel more confident.
Yeah, and people be like, well,
she knows what she's talking about.
And most likely you ended up with a contract. That's a good thing. That's the end purpose. But now let's talk about negotiations and offers.
Okay.
What skills do you use to negotiate a deal?
Yeah.
Whether for a seller or for the buyer. What are the let me see right here. What are the strategies that you use?
Okay. So if I am representing the buyer, the first thing that I do, if they have showed interest and they're like, I want to purchase this house or submit an offer, the first thing that I do is I speak to the listing agent. I have a phone conversation with them, not just texting. And I ask them, what's going to be most attractive to the seller in this offer? Are they needing a lease back? Meaning, do they need a 30-day, to help with the transition of moving into a new home? Do they need to be a lease back to help with that transition? Or are they, most of the time they're looking for the highest price. That's what they usually say. But if you submit an offer and one of them is at price and the other one's at the same price and one of them's offering a free lease back, that one's going to stand out and they're probably going to move forward with that one because it's taking away the pain of that move for them. Other things is, less option days and higher option fee, higher earnest money amount. You can also, pay for the survey if there's not an existing one. I usually have my buyer pay for the survey if there's not an existing one.
A lower third-party financing.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Higher down payments. Not asking for any closing cost assistance. And that's how it would stand out from a seller's perspective. But depending on how many days of market the home has been on and how motivated the seller is, it really just depends on where their current stance is. If I know that they're highly motivated and there's no offers and they've been on the market for over 100 days, most of the time the buyer is going to offer something that's under asking price. And in that, they may ask for money towards their closing costs. It could be to help them with the closing costs, or it could be to compensate the realtor, depending on what they negotiated, because now that the new law about the NAR rolled out, and there's a lot more documentation. There's a lot of hype in the media about it. And I know that we'll probably touch on that as well, so I'm prepared.
Yeah, go ahead. Go touch on that NAR. What does that mean?
So the National Association of Realtors, they had a lawsuit that passed, and now honestly the only thing that has changed, the media has been all over it, and giving the realtors bad names, and that there's all kinds of headlines that I never really followed. And I didn't get in the feed or read anything. I just stuck to what my brokerage had to say and discussed it amongst my peers. But I wasn't going to get into it because I don't know.
It's just confusing.
It is really confusing.
It's confusing and it's just a lot. And
really,
there's not really a lot that changed. It was always kind of there. Now it's just on paper.
Yeah. So the only thing that's changed is that we're not able to market commissions, compensation, to buyer's agents through the MLS. So the buyer's agent has to call the listing agent and ask them, is the seller compensating me as representative of the buyer? So if it's 3%, 2%, 1%, these terms have always been negotiable. They have never been standard. They have never
just on black and white. Now versus now you have to pick up the phone and ask.
Exactly. So there's more paperwork, there's more communication and conversations to be had to find out, because this is still the same too.
I don't hate it.
Yeah,
I actually don't hate it.
I don't hate it either.
Yeah.
I think it brings more transparency to the industry, more clarity on who and how and when someone's going to get paid, because these are conversations that should have been already had before this is even passed. And for the realtors who are afraid of these conversations, who don't know their value or their worth or how they are going to present to their client, those realtors are probably going to step out of the industry, which is kind of good for us.
Yeah.
So,
it was kind of like when everyone was joining the industry during COVID, because everybody was buying a house and it was so easy. And that was a great market to get your license, but then market's constantly changing, then interest rates skyrocketed, and then you had the buyer that you've been working with for months was like, okay, I'm gonna hold off. So it's just like that. And it was like all of those lenders and those realtors dissolved out of the business. And it's like, honestly, get out of our way, because we're serious about this business and we know how to navigate through the market.
Exactly. And
it's not always easy.
It's not. And so the only thing, like the presenting on the MLS, you can't put any of your commission on there or compensation to realtors. And then the other one is that we have to have a buyer representation agreement signed with the buyer before you even step foot through the door. I do too.
I love that.
I do. And that's the reason why. And we've already been doing, as a team, we've already been meeting with our buyers.
It just wasn't mandatory.
Yeah, it wasn't mandatory. And I've always had them signed anyways, but I usually had it done after the first day of us showing so that they can see that I had value walking through these homes. I can point out if there's something wrong with the structure of the home, if there's any cracks in the foundation, things that they didn't even think about looking at, the HVAC unit ages, looking at the roof age, seeing if there's been a previous claim on the home, talking about home insurance, that okay, well, they have a slide on the pool, so that's probably going to increase home insurance, or the roof is over 17 years old. It might be hard to find home insurance.
But I personally love the buyer's agent representation, just because there's buyers out here that, one, are not educated, and there's buyers, and I'm going to say this bluntly, that don't care, right? They're just trying to find their next home. And at the end of the day, like, we don't get compensated until the deal closes. So our time is precious and it's our money. Yeah. And there's buyers out there that will use multiple agents at one time, and they don't disclose that, hey, I literally had a buyer before this buyer's representation. He had called my husband, he had called another agent, he had called his uncle. And I asked him, I said, well, why aren't you working with just one agent? And he goes, it's just whoever finds the house first. And I'm like, no, that's not how it works. Like, our time is valuable. And if you're using, multiple agents to help you find this home, I mean, someone's going to get the short end of the stick. And so this buyer's representation almost makes it to where this buyer and you have this relationship where now it's on paper. Yeah. And it just makes it real. And to be honest with you, I don't hate any of the changes. I love the changes.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It definitely solidifies the relationship, and it shows that you are going to represent them in the best light that you possibly can. But there is what we call, what do they call them? Serial buyers, where they just call every single agent and they're trying to view these homes. I'm like, how are you even trusting this person to represent you? You don't even know who they are. Yeah. And that's the reason why we do the buyer consultations, is because I want to build that relationship over the table before you feel comfortable with me showing you homes where you have to sign something between you and I.
Right.
I mean,
plus it's such a, I feel like this industry is such a dog-eat-dog industry too. And there are agents out there where they, you call them and even the buyer can be like, well, XYZ has been showing me for months, and the agents don't care. They're just like commission breath. They just want to get paid. And it's really not about that. I mean, you're going to get paid just doing good and doing your job and providing the service that you provide and the value that you bring to the table. Money is going to come with it. But there's other agents that don't respect those types of boundaries. And there's even buyers that don't respect, like an agent's time. So having these forms in place kind of solidifies that, hey, I'm your buyer's agent. We're going to be working directly together. And, I'm here to represent you in the best way possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good. It kind of settle that in the beginning instead of you mentioned, having 3 or 4 people out there running crazy trying to find a house, and it kind of leave a bad taste between them.
Well, with any service that is provided, you usually have a contract to sign before that person performs the service.
Right.
That's what's happening here. Now we have to have the agreement signed before we give them the service.
And obviously you're not like married to do business with that agent. If you're not, if you and that agent aren't having a good relationship and eventually you're like, hey, this isn't working out, I think that's fine. But I think just being transparent from the buyer's side of the buyer's point of view is like, hey, I'm not really vibing with you, like it's not working out. It's easier to have those conversations when you have it in writing versus really you don't have anything that's legal. Nothing's in writing. You're just kind of like taking their word that they're going to use you.
Yeah. So you can terminate the agreement. On the
Which
buy
is
or the sell
fine.
side. Yeah. I mean, why would I want to work with somebody that doesn't want to
not a
work
good
with me?
fit.
Like that's going to build this dark place for both of us. And I want the buyer to be happy with the process of purchasing. This is a big thing, a huge investment. They've worked really, really hard to be able to do something like this.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't want to be a burden on that. So if they don't like me for whatever reason, or they don't get a good feel, then we can terminate. I've never had anyone terminate with me. But
Yeah,
I mean,
but the option is there.
Yep. So now talking about deals and stuff like that, what is the hottest community right now that is like selling houses like hotcakes?
That'd be you question.
yeah.
That would be
But
for you.
Definitely the Woodlands. I feel like the Woodlands has always been hot.
Yeah.
It's been on fire for what, 7 years?
Yeah.
10 years?
Yeah, it's
Just
just
keep
you
selling.
have a good home that hits the market, it moves quick.
Yeah.
It's just what it is. Even the luxury markets moves pretty quick too.
Really?
Yeah.
When you say luxury market, is like above 750K above?
Yeah, I would say above.
Like a jumbo. Yeah.
Like yeah.
Yeah.
Jumbo,
Yeah.
what is the minimum for the jumbo?
So conventional just increased their loan amount, I want to say to 800,000 recently, like in the last week. So now a conventional loan limit is at 800K. After that, it turns into a jumbo.
So I was kind of close. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
it's moving pretty good.
Yeah, and I think that the driving factor for like the Woodlands is the schools, along with like Tomball, and Cy-Fair ISD is pretty great too, and Tomball ISD, and then Conroe ISD. So those are all really great school districts to be in, and so people move from California, from Florida from New Jersey over here just to be in the district. I have clients that I work with out of state all the time, which I didn't even know was like one of my niche like kind of things until somebody reached out to me and was like, "You work with a lot of out of state clients, don't you?" And I was like, "I do," and it just happens that way, and it's because of referrals. People refer me somebody that's out of state that are moving over here, so. A lot of times I sell homes before I even meet this person.
Wow.
And they fully trust me over, I use an app called Marco Polo, is where I do all of my virtual showings. So it's recorded in live time, and they can go back and look at it. So they can see it as I'm there, or they can go back and look at it. And I start with my face in it, with like the address, and then I will go through all the details of it. And it takes, honestly, sometimes those even take longer than an actual in-person showing because I don't know if they like it or don't like it. So I continue with the whole showing. Sometimes they'll text me like, "Hey, you can just stop and go to the next one." So I will literally sell the home to them. They will do a mobile notary, and I'll meet them maybe 2 weeks, maybe even a month after we close on the home at the house. And I'm just finger crossed, hope they like it.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't know. And every single time they've loved the home. So I kind of understand what they're looking for as we're going through these showings. I've done like Zoom buyer consultations online. That's usually where we start. And then I figure out what they want, get them paired up with the lender, and then we hit the ground running.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
I know.
So
Technology.
Yeah, I know.
I know.
Like talking
It's
about
very normal.
out of state, it used to be like a foreign conversation.
Yeah.
Like, it used to be like
They had to fly.
It's like really?
Now it's like Zoom.
And maybe it's a
Yeah.
high-end
FaceTime,
client,
yeah.
and now it's like regular people
Yeah.
moving in. It's a normal thing.
Yeah, it is very
And technology helping a lot. I
Yeah.
didn't know
Yeah.
about that app. Can you talk to me about that app, Marco Polo?
Yeah, it's a free app. I think you can pay it at some level, but it's just between myself and maybe 2 other people. But it's kind of like maybe like Snapchat. I'm not on Snapchat, but it's like these videos where you send back and forth and you can comment on. And
Oh, okay.
it's like a beach ball is the logo. You ever use Marco Polo?
No.
No,
yeah.
first time I heard of it.
I've used it on Teams too. So if I'm just like, "Hey, I hope you're having a great day. This is what we need to do today. Kill it, go out there and make some calls." And so we'll communicate that way too. It's just kind of like a a video messaging system. Honestly, that's what it is.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about your personal, like your job, what you do in your prospective team. Let's start with you, Samantha. Do you run it? You have your 20 people, right? You have your 20 people going. Walk me through a daily Monday morning meeting before you start, crunching the numbers and before you spread everybody out to do the work. Give me the flow of your meeting.
So typically my day starts off with my buyers that have been house hunting, that might have looked at a house that night with their realtor, even over the weekend. And I'm trying to be quick because they want to make sure that they're comfortable with their monthly payment. The realtor is relying on me to make sure that they're comfortable with the numbers. And so my day almost always gets started with running and crunching numbers for clients. Typically it's a time sensitive thing. And so I have to move quickly. So I do that. And then after that, today I have 2 meetings. So I have this one, and then I have a realtor meeting at 1 p.m. So every day kind of differentiates. I try to do my social media content, whether it's just quickly post on my story. I try to do marketing, and then I just kind of dive right into it. I start to read emails. I start to go through the applications that I received the night before. I call the realtors. I thank them for sending the client. I always give them an update. And just like she had said at the beginning, there's a lot of, just being organized with the systems. I have a ton of systems that help me keep up because I couldn't remember everything off the top of my head. But I have a system that I use that's called Bonzo, and it's basically my CRM that helps me track the clients, the conversations that I've had. And I set myself tasks. And through those tasks, it can be like, so-and-so applied yesterday. I ordered their verification of employment, make sure that it comes in. And then I get with my team, hey, you guys, have you received their verification of employment? No, I haven't. I then take that update and I update the realtor again. So it's really constant updates. It's constant communication through the process. It's also checking in on my house hunters. Hey, it's Samantha with New American Funding. I'm calling to check on you on your house hunting is going okay. Is there anything you need from me? Do I need to crunch any numbers for you? Do you have any questions regarding the programs and all of that? So really it's just every day looks a little bit different. I really don't time block. I feel like for me that doesn't work. I know a lot of people do time block, but for me, I kind of just jump right into it and I start going through just really everything that I have pending, all of my tasks. Really, Bonzo is my day. I look at Bonzo and I look at what tasks do I have today. I usually set those tasks, like today I'll have an application and I'll set it in 3 days. Did the client send their documents? And so if that client didn't send their documents 2 to 3 days later, I'll call and I'll say like, hey, so-and-so, I just wanted to follow up on the documents that I need in order to finish your pre-approval. Do you have any questions? So all day long, It's on the phone.
That's pretty good. I like that. Are you a data-driven person? Do you like to see data?
Absolutely. Everything's in. I have Excel spreadsheets. I have a whole team. I have a girl that I hired, my business operations. She runs all the numbers for me. I wish I could do it all. I can't. So sometimes I don't even know what I'm closing that month as far as numbers go.
Wow.
She usually recaps with me at the end of the month, and she'll be like, hey, the branch did X and this is where we're at. Or, hey, we have our weekly Wednesday pipeline meeting. And at that time, I kind of see what everyone's got going on, and we navigate through any challenging files. And the really good thing that I love about my team is that we utilize each other's knowledge to really just maneuver through this industry, whether it's, hey, I have a client that was self-employed and now is W-2, like how would we help that type of client? And I think with all of our knowledge, we've all helped so many different scenarios that somebody has helped a scenario that another loan officer has. So we have team meetings, we have team chats, it's pretty chaotic.
Yeah, I always thought about loan officers as wizards, because they make it happen somehow.
They're very magical.
Yeah, they're magical. They're like my prior lender. I was like, you do your sorcery, do your thing, and she's like, don't worry about it. And she came out like, you're good. They're like, good deal. So you have to be very knowledgeable in your space.
You do.
So it's only in your space now. What do you do? Take me to your daily activity during the day.
Yeah.
Give me the work today.
The first thing I do in the morning is work out. Get that over with. And then I'm getting the kids ready out the door, trying to move them as quickly as possible. Hopefully my husband can help on Mondays, because Mondays are usually the day that I follow up with anybody that's come over the weekend, anything from the following week. So I'm in my CRM every Monday morning, preparing, calling, sending emails, same thing. We have Wednesday and Friday emails that go out. So we use a program called Trello outside of our CRM that's very task oriented. We have different boards. So usually on Fridays, I work on my whole next week. And then I'll have my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of all the to-dos that I need to get done, or anything that I need to be sent over. And I sometimes have like 2 tasks for the same thing in different ways. Mm-hmm. So in case I miss something, I already can see it over here. And so I'll just have to check it twice, but I'd rather have 2 reminders than not get it done at all. Mm-hmm. My VA, my virtual assistant, is also requesting things through Trello, whether it's like an update on the market or getting something prepared or approved. We use that for all of my marketing, my content too, social media. And usually on Fridays, I'm approving everything. So we have different tabs like pending or ideas, and then he's like approved, and then I move it over and he's like posted, and so we write in the captions there. That's kind of like how I get everything rolling, and that's why we can push out so much content. But it's a lot of preparation, right? It's a lot of consistency. I know the first week in every month that I'm doing mailers to all of my people that I've ever bought or sold and also liked at the same time. So if I didn't like you and I bought or sold, you're probably not getting one of these, honestly. And with those, we're always putting in, it's like an update about the family. It has it has 3 photos at the top, just a little small read about what's going on in my life, a market update of how reports, how it performed the previous month, recommendations on like podcasts or reads that I'm doing. And then like events that we have going on, whether it's our personal team events or if it's a local event, festival, whatever it is, it's included in there. People love these letters. And we also put lottery tickets in them. That's probably why they really love them, honestly. But it's funny because people will call or text and they'll be like, I love these mailers that you get. I'm like, well.
So who makes them for you?
So we, in Trello, we have already a breakdown of what it looks like. So it creates in Canva. I just bought a big girl printer, which I'm really excited about. Yeah. So now I can print from home, and I got like the nice paper. But I was ordering from Office Depot every month, and it was probably about between $200 to $300 to do this just once a month.
That's amazing.
But now I'm able to save on costs because of my big girl printer, and the paper was cheap that I bought. It was like 2 packs for $40 instead of spending like $130 on printing.
But it's things like that, that make you different than everybody else. Because people think that it's rocket science, and it's really not. No. It's just putting in that extra effort to just be different than every other realtor that's out here.
Yeah. It's finding something that you are okay with doing and wanting to do, and then being consistent with it. So we're going on 12 months of doing this almost, or a little bit longer. But if you've ever bought or sold a home with me, you're going to have a lottery ticket literally for the rest of your life. Wow. So your chances of winning, are a little bit higher than somebody that wasn't buying them. And they always say, like, if we win the jackpot, we'll share with you. So I'm like, thanks, give me all the money back that I spent on these trailers. But that's what my Mondays usually look like. And then around 10:30, now that I'm my business admin, this is going on her 2nd week of working with me, I think. Yeah, 2nd week. So every Monday she comes to my house. My office is in my house, so I work from home a lot. She'll come in around 10:30, and then we'll talk. Well, honestly, our meeting lasts about 2 hours. Probably because she just started, and they usually will last maybe an hour. That's the goal. But because we do these boo bags where we drop off, and they have the pumpkin butter. And I've been doing that for like 7 years. And people,
you take them to every client you've closed.
last year I did 80. This year we're doing 50.
Amazing.
And I hired her to help me with the deliveries because I hate pumpkin butter now because we make so much of it. And it's like every year my whole house is full of pumpkin butter and these bags and candy and pumpkins, and like they take over a lot of space.
And honestly, it's delegating those things.
Yeah. So this year I have delegated a lot of tasks, more than I've ever done in my entire life, and my business has grown quick.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. That's good. This is the biggest growth year I've ever had. And I hear but I'm not experiencing it. A lot of agents are suffering this year because the market's slower than they're used to. So I take this time, like if it is a little slower, is to fill it with other things. So if I have a gap in my calendar, I'm scheduling something in, whether it's a coffee or a lunch or figuring out what else I can do. Marketing, going to a business. I make up these Tomball ISD calendars, magnets that are a hit. People love them. And I walked into someone's house and they're like, I know you from somewhere. It was just a friend. I was like,
Instagram?
I was like, I don't know. And they're like, and I looked at our fridge and my face was on the fridge.
That's hilarious.
And I was like, oh, I'm on your fridge. She's like, oh, you're the calendar girl. I'm like, yeah, that's me.
Funny.
But we're about to, this is our second year doing it for trunk or treat for Gage's school. There's like 2,000 kids that show up. And so I was like throwing them in every bag, and we bought like 1,000 calendars.
Yeah.
And so everybody that comes to that thing has a calendar.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And then we drop them off at businesses and have a stack of them. And then we put them in all of our listings that are in Tomball ISD. And every time I go to a listing, they're all taken. So I have to keep on restacking them. I might have to order more this year. I don't know. But it's just finding the things that you want to do and doing them well and being consistent with it, and then delegating the tasks that you know that you're not going to do. Like, so when we get a listing now, like I said, we have like 100 to-dos before we actually even put that home on the market. So we're doing a lot of work. It's actually the launch is like the hardest part because it takes a lot of time. But that's why I had to make more hires, because I couldn't do it all by myself.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah. So I hired them. But now I'm doing these mailers. So anybody that we list a home with, I already have a template in place. My girl is sending them to like the nearest 200 neighbors. Like she's sending out some today. Those are the things that I don't want to do. I don't want to write on the envelopes. Yeah.
And it's good to delegate too. Like I feel like I used to be such a freak. Like I used to be like, I have to do everything. I need to know what everything is at. And it's like, you can't scale your business if you're having to do everything. And so delegating has helped me tremendously.
It was the hardest thing to do though. You're like, oh my gosh, what if I can't pay them? Oh my gosh, like this is how much it's going to cost.
What if they don't work the way I work?
Yeah, like what if
you
it's
have
done
to
wrong?
let go of that.
Yeah, you do. If they're doing 80% of it well, that means that they're doing 100%.
It allows you more time to go find the next family to help.
Yeah. Yeah, do the things that you're really good at, which is being the face and the communicator and the one that's going out and getting the business. And they're doing all the other things to help it run smoothly. And so that you can get that repeat referral client database going.
That's amazing. Like how that help you building that trust and delegating to scale your business? You can kind of go along,
Yeah.
How that help you? Because sometimes it's hard to let it go.
I think like just really, you'll know someone's work ethic immediately.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you know they're not a right fit, the first couple of weeks, they're not the right fit. And I think eventually, because at the beginning I was like, man, no one gave me a manual book about being a leader or being a branch manager or like having these loan officers that come and go. It's mentally exhausting. And you're like, oh my gosh, I just trained them up. But then you kind of rewire your brain and you're like, you know what? You trained them up, and hopefully I get good karma from this because I did this from my heart. But I think really just letting go. You have to have your own systems, obviously. Like my tasks is my own system. So if one of my girls or guys lets it slip through the crack, I got my own system making sure that you're doing it. And so once you get to that point in your career where you know how to hire and fire quickly, it really just starts to become more easier, and making sure that you have really weekly meetings. I mean, I call my loan officers, I call my operations almost every other day. How are you doing? How are the applications going? Do you feel overwhelmed? Yes, I do. Okay, let me get more help. So it's really just communicating. And as a leader and as the team leader, you have to be the one to pick up the phone and call, because your employees are naturally going to want to make you happy. And so sometimes they don't speak up. They don't tell you that they are overwhelmed. You have to have a solution for when those times come, and you get better at it as you go.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm glad that you guys doing good.
Thank you.
I'm so happy.
Me too.
I'm impressed. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm taking notes. I'm listening. I'm like, oh, that's what she did.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you need to share some of that pumpkin butter. You got mine.
I'll add
like,
you to the list.
what is
You're,
that?
you're
Add me to the-
51. You're 51.
Yeah.
It's just, honestly, the pumpkin butter can go on English muffins. People put it on ice
And you
cream.
make it?
Yes,
You're
I make it in
incredible.
the crock
Oh
pot.
my gosh.
Yes, and I make several batches because 50 takes up a lot. But
Gosh.
yeah, and the whole house smells like pumpkin butter. It smells
Really?
really good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I
but
will.
people look forward to it. People
Yeah.
don't like some people don't even like the pumpkin, and they like the pumpkin butter.
Wow.
So yeah.
No, you're definitely very creative.
We're also this year, and I've done it 1 year before. We put the cake pops.
I'm like, I need to step my game up.
Yeah.
What am I gonna make when I get home?
You're like, ah. So my 13-year-old stepdaughter has a cake pop business. And so
So
the
cute.
first year
Nice.
that she launched it, she put the cake pops in there, and she makes like all the Halloween decor.
That's
and
precious.
Yeah, and I mean, her mom and her are like very like they do it together. I think her mom is taking the reins on a lot of things now
Yeah.
because she's so busy with work and school,
Yeah.
and she's in a play. So this year I decided, I was like, well, I'll do it again because I haven't done it. That first year it was a huge hit, and I wrote out a letter, put in like a little like a piece of paper, and I wrote out like what the cake pops were, like how she started a business, and like it was kind of like a love letter, like the ones that I do in the newsletters where I write out a little bit excerpt about what's going on in our family. So family loved it, friends loved it, all my
I think
clients.
it's relatable too.
Yeah.
It's like when you can relate to like another family, like we are parents, we're kids, we have jobs, we're all the things. It's like easier to connect with that client versus like, I'm just a businesswoman, I'm just a boss, I'm just this. It's like, you can be a little intimidating, right?
Yeah.
You want to make sure that your clients know, like, I'm actually a real person.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
cry too.
Yeah.
So I
exactly.
love that you do all of those things.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's fun, yeah. And the kids, so a lot of the people that buy or sell with me, I mean, they have kids. So
Yeah.
when they open
Oh,
it
yeah.
up and there's treats for them, that's what's important.
Yeah.
Is because last year we did like these little faces. Like it was like I don't know, it was just a pack that I bought from Walmart, and there was a lot of them. But they are immediately sending me photos as soon as I dropped it off, and they're at the
That's
table
cute.
and they're like doing the crafts, and I was like, that's so cool. Like
Yeah,
it gave them
that's-
like something to do that evening.
Yeah, it makes it
Probably just-
fulfilling.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We do the gingerbread house here
Oh yeah.
in Christmas.
fun.
Yeah. Once they come up, I gave 3 or 4 boxes.
Yeah.
And give
That's
my
a good one,
daughters.
too.
Yeah, and they just
Yeah.
they love
That's
it.
cute.
Yeah, that's a tradition.
Bonding time.
I
Yeah.
know it is. So you make pumpkin butter. I make bread.
Oh, you make
Oh
bread.
wow. What
I
kind?
make
Sourdough?
bread. I'm practicing on
Okay.
that one, but I do artisan bread.
Oh nice.
Yeah, I do. Every other day I do 2 loaf of bread.
Oh my gosh.
Like this, I told my wife, like, I need to do something different besides podcast.
Yeah.
And she's like,
Like
what do you
bread.
want to do? I'm like,
I don't know.
I like bread.
Yeah.
I like bread. I make bread.
I look it up on YouTube and I got all my stuff. And
That's fun.
yeah, every other day I'm just make 2 loaf of bread, and I haven't brought bread in months now.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we do it in house now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah.
That's great. I'll start doing that. I know
Yeah.
it's a process.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, but once you get the hang of it,
Yeah.
it's just like,
Yeah.
it's a second nature. It's
Yeah.
nice. Give me something to do besides podcasting.
Yeah.
So what do you do besides punching numbers and getting people houses?
I love being with my family. So once I kind of shut it off, I mean, I love being with the family. I am cuddling on the couch with my daughter almost every single night. We watch movies. We get in the pool. We get in the hot tub in the winter. We go on walks. Like my daughter and you can't bring your phone and I can't bring mine. And we'll go for 5-mile walks, just talk for hours. So really
I love that.
I love
Yeah.
doing that. I mean, outside of that, I mean, I'm constantly with them, always. But my husband and I were constantly outside of work. We go to events, we go to dinner with friends. It's hard keeping up with everything.
I know.
Yeah.
Friday we had dinner with friends. Saturday we had a baby shower. Sunday I got sick. I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh my
So I just feel like we keep ourselves busy. We love going to comedy shows. My husband and I, that's
do.
like our favorite date night. So we'll go to the Improv, or we'll see what comedians are coming. We travel all the time. I love traveling. I love disconnecting. More than anything, I'm in my self-love era. I feel like when I first started, I was just like workaholic, and I got sick. I just started feeling sick and stressed and all the things that came with it. And so I've had to learn balance. Yeah. And so because we have that personality where we constantly want more, it can drive you nuts. And I feel like I started getting into that part of my life where I was like, this is actually driving me nuts, and wanting more does not bring fulfillment and does not bring happiness, and nor does money. So really just boundaries. Like I've had to learn boundaries and just finding like what makes me happy, working out. So I would say like really just what I'm feeling on that day. If I want to read a book in the backyard, I go sit in the backyard, just really, because I'm high adrenaline all the time. That's just my personality. I have to find ways to cope with that and get my cortisol levels balanced, because I wake up and I'm on 10. That's just my personality. I am on 10 the minute I open my eyes. And so really
you're one of those ones that just shoot out of the bed.
Oh yeah, I shoot out of the bed. I'm like, all right, what are we doing today? Kids, let's go.
Lights
are
on.
Yeah, lights are on. Like music is on. I'm out. So on my free time, I just try to figure out like just peace. Like peace and just really figuring out that balance.
Yeah. You have to.
Yeah.
But it's nice that you have that you recognize that.
Oh yeah, and I'm crazy. Like I'm crazy when it comes to work. I'm crazy.
You go at it.
Yeah, I'm not like rude, but I'm crazy. Like I can do 20 things at once. Like I'll be talking to my employees and did you do this? Did you do that? Did you do this? And they're like, I'm like, you have to keep up because that's how I'm programmed.
I know when I'm talking to somebody and they're not taking notes, I'm like, how are you going to remember all this?
Oh, absolutely.
I was like, if I have to follow up with you, I'm
going to be upset.
Yeah, because I was like, I can't remember what I'm telling you right now. So I have to follow up with you.
You guys are going to do well if you join the military.
Oh, wow.
It's funny you say that, because I was just saying the other day how I'm so crazy about like working out and like being healthy.
Oh, you guys would do it.
I love discipline and I like structure. And I was telling somebody, I don't even know if I've ever said it out loud, but I was like, whenever I turned 18, I thought about joining the military. And the reason why I was like, because I knew there was no matter what, I would have a 6-pack. I would be fit. I would be fit as fuck, and it would be amazing. And I'd just be eating normal, healthy food, and it would be fine.
See, and I don't like following a schedule. It's crazy. Like if I have like a meeting in my calendar, obviously that's given, but I hate following a schedule. Like my day, I feel like, cause this realtor will call me, this realtor will call me, this realtor will call me, this buyer. So it's like, it's hard to have like a schedule when your phone's constantly ringing. Yeah. So for me, I think like every day I go with the flow. Yeah. And I think before I used to not know how to manage like going with the flow. It would drive me crazy. Like, oh my gosh. But now I'm like, let's just have fun with this. Yeah. So I'm opposite. And then especially when we travel, my husband and I never know where we're going to stay. We land. We never have the hotel booked.
Oh my gosh.
Never.
Just find it.
We fly.
I'm literally melting.
Yeah. We fly and then we'll look on our phones and we'll start reading reviews, or we'll like be on the plane and we'll be getting ready to land, and my husband will be like, look at this hotel, book it. Because we're like, every week we have this, like we have to follow like a certain, to a certain extent. Yeah. We have to follow, we're being told what to do every week. We got to do this. We got to be at this listing appointment, this buyer's consultation. So when we travel, we're like free spirited. Yeah. Nice.
It's
crazy.
It. But not on Spirit though.
Yeah. Not on Spirit.
Free spirited, not on Spirit.
Yeah.
No, Spirit,
It's crazy how we travel.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing to do.
It's fun.
Because your
we're
job
on survival mode.
Because it's very dynamic.
Yeah.
You cannot follow the schedule. Yours is kind of like more structured because you can set up the appointments.
I am very structured in a lot of things that I do, but I'm kind of like you about the time blocking. I feel like every time I try, I'm like, I'm going to time block this week. And then I do it. And then if I don't follow it, I get really down on myself. Like I didn't do what I was supposed to do. I feel like
it's more stressful.
It is more stressful. And I've never been able to figure out completely how to do it. So I have my to-dos and I know.
And you know what you do like on Mondays. Yeah. It's going to get done. Yeah, you just don't know what time.
I know meetings Mondays. I have a team meeting on Zoom Tuesday. Sometimes we'll meet in the office for like our broker meeting. And then like listing appointments and stuff like that's structured. But when it comes to like, I'm calling between this time and this time.
So hard.
That's not it for me. It's just, I know that it's mandatory that that I get these things done.
100%.
I need to send the numbers here. I need to do my listing updates on Tuesday, but on Mondays I'm researching about other properties that are, that's kind of what I do. But the time blocking thing doesn't work for me either. I don't know how other people do it.
My
I just
husband
never
time blocks. I'm like,
not
you're
good
weird.
at it. I'm not good at it.
So weird.
It's great I feel like it's great for a lot of people,
It
but
is.
maybe
If it works for you, then great.
Yeah.
Like what works for you might not work for me, and vice versa.
Exactly.
So,
and like you were saying, like whenever we're always wanting more, we're always growing. But I was so down on myself at some point where I was looking back, I was like, I should have more. I should, but what you really need to do is you need to enjoy the journey of getting to that place, because then what are you really doing this for? Like if you're not enjoying your current life but you're anticipating to get this better life, what's going to happen when you get there?
Yeah.
Are you really going to really enjoy it then? Or are you just going to want more? So
Probably
you really
more.
need to learn to enjoy.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
You're probably going to want to enjoy the journey so that you're, I don't know, excited and, having a positive attitude.
You're not blocking that blessing that you fought so hard to get. That's where I was at. I would get more and I'd be like, oh my gosh, now I have it and I'm not happy. And I totally agree with enjoying the journey.
Yeah.
I feel like this year has actually been my favorite year thus far in this career, because I'm like not stressing over the little things.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's the key.
And it's hard because we're in a fast-paced industry.
We are.
And it's like everything is now. Mm-hmm. Everyone needs everything now. The client that just just applied on my link an hour ago is already asking me for an update. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like my husband and I made a TikTok the other day or an Instagram, and I'm sitting there working and he goes and he's knocking on my door and he puts up a sign and it's like, any update? That's my day every day.
Any update?
Like I promise when I look at my phone when I get out of here, it's going to be any update.
That's I'm definitely I definitely do that.
Yeah, no, I think everybody does. I even do
Any
it.
update? Question mark?
Yeah.
I do that with Amazon. I order something 2 hours later. Is something way here or not?
Yeah.
I just look at my phone. It's like,
checking the order
it's like,
status.
come on, give it 24 hours.
We need something like instant gratification. We need to know now. Like that's just the way that our industry is now.
Well, in just life now.
Yeah.
Like I feel like everything is
fast.
It's so fast. It's like everything you can learn how to make bread on YouTube. Whereas back in the day, like you had to read a book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now it's
around,
like it's at the palm of your hand.
It's a 5-minute video
and it's 5 minutes because our attention span is just short.
That's why I try to make my shorts, my reels shorter than 30 seconds.
Really?
Oh yeah.
It's a thing.
Yeah,
It's a thing.
And my average view is like between 11 and 16 seconds.
Yes.
The average time people watch
because our attention span is so short.
Yeah.
And you have to capture the attention in the
You're
first
like,
3 seconds.
The best part was at the end.
Yeah.
Dang it.
I know,
You should
right?
start the best part at the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, you should.
No, sometimes you have to bring the last part at the end, at the beginning.
Yeah.
Give it a hint
Split graphs.
to keep it on. Because if not, you're gonna lose their attention.
Yep.
They're gonna be like,
On to the next
problem.
video.
Yeah. So you have 3 seconds. That's what I heard.
Mm-hmm.
And read it's like 3 seconds to capture that people's attention. And it's hard sometimes for podcasts, but this one is really good. I like this podcast.
Thank you.
Well, we haven't got the footage yet. So
you're gonna see it. I'm gonna give you the whole thing, so you're gonna have a good time editing. Well, not you, but him. He's gonna have a good time editing.
Oh
so.
yeah,
Aww.
I hope so.
Yeah, definitely. But I'm glad you guys came.
Thank
I
you
know
for
you
having
guys-
us.
You guys are very busy, so I really appreciate the time taken to come in. And
Absolutely.
I will link everything down below. Their social media, social media handles, the information, emails. Can I leave your phone number down there too?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Your phone number. Everything will be listed down there.
You can Google it.
Yeah.
Literally.
I will leave
anywhere.
QR codes here somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put some QR codes so people can scan it and go through it. And last few words, if you want to say something to your future clients, that's your camera right there. And for you, Samantha, that's your camera right there.
Okay.
So if you're watching before we leave and they say the final words, so we are on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and you can listen to us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, iCast, and let me see if I forget something. And there's a bunch of podcasts out there. You can listen to us and help us to grow. Also have a Patreon. You can sign up for $3 a month. You get pictures, backstage footage on raw video, unedited, so you can see us joking around, stuff like that. You can see everything. So That's your camera right there. You can say whatever you want to your future clients, because I know they come into the Houston area. A lot of people moving in, so
Okay.
that's your time.
If you're looking to buy or sell in the Houston area, North Houston area, contact me for more details. I'd love to be a resource. You can follow me at Kristian Sells Houston on Instagram, or give me a call, 409-789-3573.
Amazing.
Okay, well, cool. Like, okay.
A lot of people don't see the lender.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of people don't see the loan
also
officer.
It's funny because you're like, give the sales pitch, and you're like, I do this every day, and then when you're put on the spot, you're like,
I kind of wanted you to go first because I was not prepared for that. But
So, okay, whether you're a first-time home buyer or not, an investor or someone that's looking to purchase in the future, contact me at 281-974-8181 or follow me on Instagram at Lady Lender, and I'd be happy to help you with your homeownership journey.
All right, I really appreciate it. Thank you, Samantha.
Of course.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I mean, I was happy that you came. When you say you coming, I was like, yes, you coming.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for
sure.
inviting me.
Absolutely. I wouldn't want to do it with anybody else.
We have a good time. Hey, if you want to see another video, you just click here or here. It's backwards, but just click in there. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Take care. Bye-bye.